All right, guys. We got one Friday night in the books. We're going to recap everything that happened last night for you and talk about the ins and outs. My name is DC Reeves. This is Jason Blakeney. We're the P&J Prep Insiders, and we're going to start with the biggest game, PHS Pine Forest. We were both there. It was a pretty surprising result. I mean, these are obviously two great teams, but what did you think?
I was shocked. Not so much by the result. I am surprised that Pensacola High won. I said yesterday I thought Pine Forest will win this game. I am shocked at the utter domination of that Pine Forest offensive line. The PHS had penetration on every single series over and over and over, and I didn't expect that out of such a huge Pine Forest offensive line.
Yeah, and as I wrote in today's column, there was just signs of it's way too early to say this is the same defense as last year because 2009 PHS defense might be one of the best that Pensacola's ever had, any team, anywhere. You allow 95 points in 15 games. You shut 3 teams out in the playoffs. You get that label. But we're only talking about one game here. But, man, it looked a lot like them. Just guys flying to the ball, penetration on that offensive line that averages 270 pounds.
Right.
I mean, you didn't expect to see that. You thought with Purefoy at quarterback for Pine Forest that they'd be able to get up in there and make some big plays. They really didn't have any. The one big play Purefoy had was called back on a holding call. He had a 52-yard touchdown. They ended up scoring on the drive anyway. But still, that was really their only good drive. They fumbled twice inside the red zone. Fumbled once, then turned it over on downs inside the red zone. Had some opportunities. But man, like I said, like you said, more so impressed with the way PHS's defense played than I am surprised at the result. I mean, if you would have told me when we walked in there that PHS would have won the game, I wouldn't have been surprised. It's just that the way they did it, by just dismantling the front, owning the trenches on both sides of the ball, was pretty impressive. So, anyway, 24-7, Pensacola's won 15 games in a row. That's 18 games in a row, also without allowing 14 points or less. 2 incredible streaks, and we'll see if they can keep those going.
And they play Tate next week, and Tate is actually the last team to score more than 14 points against them.
Oh, wow.
So that would be interesting.
And Tate had a nice week. Let's not forget them. Thursday night, they had a nice win, 30-20. Struggled a little bit on defense, gave up a couple big plays to a young quarterback, but they ran the Rigby scrum, as they call it, for 440 yards of offense. Now, granted, Mike Bennett was in the stands. This is an offense that you don't get a lot of looks at. He's got a whole week of tape. He's got some better athletes. Flat out, PHS has got some of the best athletes on defense, and so it might be a little bit of a different story. I don't imagine them putting up 30 points, but
400 yards.
Last year in state championship year, Tate only lost 7-0. So anyway, we'll see how that goes, but that should be a pretty good game.
Yeah,
so we'll just run down the line here and talk about each of the games tonight. First, we'll start with in Choctaw. Catholic got off to another nice start. Beat them 33-9 last year to start the season 1-0. And now they beat Choctaw 34-16 to start this season 1-0.
Yeah, that's really not a surprise. They have the talent. Catholic has so much talent. It's just a matter of depth. So early in the year, you expect Catholic to go out and win these games. It's games 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that you have to start wondering if injuries catch up with you. Like last year, they lost Wade Wass early in the year and had to play without him at linebacker for the rest of the year. And you wonder, can they go ahead and play injury free like they did pretty much all of last year? But tonight, a great start for them. Right,
absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt when you're a Class 2B team, when you're like Catholic, you're one injury away from being a 10-0 team versus a 7-3 or a 6-4 team. Now, in cases of Pine Forest, PHS, the bigger schools, they don't have those issues. But when they've got their starting 11 out there, you can put Catholic starting 11 up with anybody, and surprise, surprise, they put up 34 points. They scored 30 points or more in 8 of 13 games last year. Now 1 of 1 this year. So. Wins that one pretty handily. Now we'll move on to Northview and Graceville. Northview beat Graceville 24-6. Again, another rematch of the season opener last year. And what was interesting is that last year you didn't know what you were going to get from Northview. Right. As we said in Friday's video, nobody knew what offense Sid Wheatley was going to run. He was a new coach. He's only been there 6 weeks. Well, they knew what they were going to run, and they did just that. I think it was something like 280 yards offense.
Yeah, another impressive showing out of them. They could be the team that knocks off the Freeport or the South Walton this year and gets that extra team into the playoffs from the Pensacola area. It'd be nice to see that. Maybe Jay can sneak up on somebody Probably not, honestly. And Jay was on a bye this week,
Right.
so we won't get to see anything out of them until next week. But Northview, not sneaking up on anybody, but obviously very tough to stop.
Right, absolutely. I mean, you run for 280 yards against anybody. I mean, that's impressive. And you know, they were 7-3 last year. They only lost 2 games in the district, and it just happened to be to the 2 teams that finished district champ and runner-up. So they were right there. I mean, they were in the mix, coming off a 2-8 season. So I mean, you expect big things from them again. They got
Absolutely.
Dustin Uhas at running back. They've got some good players. They got some guys with some experience back. So you know, we'll see if they can keep that rolling. Next is Walton, West Florida. Walton came over to West Florida and beat them 34-11. You know, Walton, as we said, has a great passing attack with the quarterback, and it looked like they were able to get that going again.
Yeah, you know, the thing about West Florida is they're going to have to get where they can throw the ball consistently to go along with this running attack, because as long as teams can stack 8 guys into the box to stop the running game, really, you know, it's going to be tough for them to win games. It's the first game under Harry Lee, so, you know, it's something that they're building toward here.
Right.
No one expects them to go out and win a championship this year anyway.
Sure, and people say, you know, that's you hate to lose to a Class 2B team if you're a 3A team like West Florida is, but you know, let's not forget, I mean, Walton has more Division 1A prospects on their team, which is 3 of them, compared to West Florida, you know. So, and we're talking about a seasoned quarterback who threw for 3,200 yards in Liam Miller at Walton. They've got some fantastic players. So, hey, and when you run ball control offense, you can't get down early. You can't, you know, it's hard to overcome big deficits. So, I mean, hell, even Pine Forest does that. I mean, Pine Forest runs into that issue. You know, they're down. You run a split back veer and you're down 17 points. It makes it more difficult. So. You know, you're right. If they can add that dynamic of passing game in there, you know, I think they could be a bigger threat. But all right, next game is Escambia taking the PC Rutherford Rams 27-14. A big win for the new head coach Scott Anderson, who's all of about 5 days on the job. But hey, that might be the most impressive thing of all. I mean, to get that team rallied up to, you know, beat a fairly solid 3A program 27-14 when you've only been around 5 days, that sort of says something about the job he's done.
Yeah, and you know, he's doing that with a sloppy team this week. You know, 3 personal fouls, 10 penalties. You can't do that. And, you know, you're not going to win very many games doing that. And you saw Pine Forest tonight. They had a lot of penalties, and it really hurt them. You know, they had a couple of times where they could have gotten off the field, but, you know, jumping off sides, and they, you know, that extends drives, that puts points on the board. And, you know, so Escambia is not going to be able to get by with that anymore. They're going to have to, you know, play more disciplined football. But you got Michael Travis today, 3 touchdowns, an impressive effort out of him, and you get the passing game going. You get Shamar Watts, you know, catching passes like he was in their classic against PHS, and maybe the Escambia is a team to watch out for.
Yeah, hey, look, you know, they've had some guys transfer out. There's some guys at PHS. There's a guy at Catholic. I mean, there's some guys that some good, solid players that left the Escambia program in the offseason. But, hey, I mean, there's some bright spots there, too. And we talked about, you look at their roster, you've got 2 6'4", 6'3" receivers. I mean, you've got NFL-sized receivers out there. That's a bright spot. You got Nico Elias in the middle, who's one of the better, you know, defensive, the front 7 guys really anywhere. So, you know, very impressive. I mean, I was truly, you know, when we saw that score come in, 27-14, I mean, you know, it could have been the other way around. We wouldn't ask any questions about it with a new coach and everything like that. So, very impressive. Also, speaking of impressive, we go to Milton Gulf Breeze. Bobby John's first game as head coach. Put it on Gulf Breeze, 34-6. They were up 14-0 in the first 3 minutes, and we weren't sure if Matt Floyd was going to play. We thought he wasn't going to play, and he didn't play the first series. Did I say whole game? I meant the first series. So you didn't play the first series, but he went. He was in there second series, and didn't like it. I guess he didn't miss a beat.
Well, two series, 2 touchdowns, and I can't do it.
Right, that's right.
So, but you know they're out there against Gulf Breeze tonight, and obviously the Dolphins got a ways to go. You know they new offense, new defensive coordinator. You know it's going to be some growing pains, and you know it doesn't get any easier for Gulf Breeze next week. They get Catholic, and Catholic's not who I want to play when I'm struggling.
Absolutely
and,
not.
You know, but you know, you look at Milton, what Bobby Johns is doing there. He kind of tweaking his personnel to fit his playbook to fit his personnel.
Right.
And obviously, it worked out well for him tonight.
Yeah. I mean, he's meeting in the middle. He's a triple option guy running some spread. I mean, he knows he's got a solid passing quarterback in Matt Floyd. And, we see new coaches all the time, and there's new enthusiasm all the time. And, I mean, anytime there's a change, there's some enthusiasm. But, I mean, I've been out to Milton a couple times, and it just feels different out there. I mean, the guy has rebuilt a bunch of programs. He's there hours, from sun up to sundown and past sundown. And, I mean, it just always seemed like the attitude out there was different. And, I mean, it would not surprise me at all if they became, the area's surprise team. I mean, in terms of challenging for maybe that runner-up spot, giving Pine Forest and Pace good games. I expect big things from them, and what we saw from week one only reinforces that. So, also, a big surprise, also out in Navarre, we've got Navarre 14, Fort Walton Beach 0. Talk about a traditionally powerful program in Fort Walton Beach getting shut out by a pretty veteran group that Navarre's got.
Well, I tell you, that's a gutsy performance. I did expect better things from Navarre this year. I did not expect this.
Right.
Maybe I see them coming out with a win, but the 0 I thought was a typo. I was very surprised. I don't recall the last time Fort Walton Beach was shut out in a football game.
Exactly, and that's not to discredit Navarre's defense thinking they should be giving up a lot of points. It's the fact that, I mean, you hold a program like Fort Walton Beach to 0. I mean, you're doing some things right, and hey. You talk about another surprise. I mean, it's just making District 1 4A even more exciting. I mean, you're talking about Pine Forest, Pace. Now you've got Milton looking good. You've got Tate looking good. You've got Navarre looking good. You've got Escambia looking good. I mean, so who would have thought that the two teams with one loss after week one would be Pace and Pine Forest, and the 4 teams with a win would be the other 4 teams in that district. So that only speaks to how exciting that district's really going to be when we get there.
Absolutely. That will play all the way out into November. It definitely seems like we've got the horses this year to make it a 6-horse race, and that'll be interesting to watch. I look forward to that.
All right, last game on the docket for us is Meet Louisiana going and stealing one, coming 283 miles round trip. One way from right around Hammond, Louisiana, just north of New Orleans. Coming down to Pace and stealing a win 13-12.
I tell you, time running out. I think about 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. You get a pick 6. Try to extend it to a 3-point lead and can't. So you've only got a 1-point lead. And you know how Pace likes to play those tight first week games. You look at those games with Pine Forest a couple years ago, back to back, where they had real barn burners there to open the year. And that's one of those maybe reality checks for Pace. You always got to be confident out there in Patriot Land, because you always got big boys coming out. You've always got a bunch of kids coming out. You've always got talent, and to let one slip away like this, that seem like you were in control. Maybe it's the wake up call they need.
Right, and they've had 2 13-1 seasons in the last 5 years, but they've had a lot of 6-5 seasons. And as I wrote in our prep tab that came out on Wednesday, or our prep preview. They play. I mean, there's a reason for this. They play. I mean, we're talking about a team a meet team that was 30-7 in their last 37 games over the last 3 years. They won a state title 6 years ago. They made the second round of the Class 3A playoffs in Louisiana. I mean, this wasn't just some team they picked up and so they could give them a beat down. I mean, they play Tallahassee Godby, Tallahassee Rickers. They play Niceville. These are teams they don't have to play. So when people look at their record and they say they were 6-5. Well, that 6-5 is a lot different than some other people's 6-5. So, this is a learning experience for them. I'm sure they'll get lessons out of this. A pick 6 is very uncharacteristic of the fundamental football they play out there. So I'm sure Mickey Lindsay, the head coach, might be throwing some extra sprints at those guys. But no doubt.
Or his hat.
Right, one of the two. But that's a learning lesson for them, and. Really overall, it's been a pretty impressive week one. I mean, what's the biggest thing you think that stands out to you?
Navarre shutting out Fort Walton Beach.
Yeah, it's hard to beat that. I mean, I still go with Pensacola. The way they handled Pine Forest. I mean, nobody saw that coming. As we said, we would have believed either team winning. We both thought Pine Forest would win, but the way in which Pensacola won, I don't think I would have ever seen.
That was staggering.
And pretty much handling them the entire game, forcing, again, Pine Forest didn't help themselves with 5 fumbles, 4 lost fumbles, 3 inside their own 30. You ain't gonna, as we said on the sideline, you could be the Green Bay Packers, and if you're fumbling 3 times inside your own 30, you're going to be in trouble.
Absolutely.
I think just the way they handle them was really the most surprising.
That was very surprising.
So anyway, that's week one for us. You've hopefully watched both our videos. Our preview on Friday And then this one on Saturday morning. We'll be doing this every week. Thanks
You won't have to look at our ugly faces.
No.
Because we'll have highlights starting next week.
Right.
So, yeah, you don't have to look at us anymore. So, good stuff.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.